All right, we're going to start like we always do with the reminder that spelling is all about meaning. If we just focus on the sounds of the words and we don't think about how it's built, the morphology, or the story behind the word, the etymology, we can often misspell words. So we have to look at all the parts together under that umbrella of orthography to make sense of why we spell things the way we do. Today, I used lots of references to make sure that I was painting just the right picture for you to understand the words that we're going to be looking at. So I used an online etymology dictionary at etymonline.com, the High Frequency Word Project, the Oxford School Dictionary of Word Origins, Gina Cook's work out of the Linguistics Educators Exchange, and the Dictionary of Word Origins. You should see my desk. It is a mess. Today we're going to look at one, once, and only. And the reason this one comes up often is because we hear w at the beginning of one and once. But then when we say the word only, we hear that long O sound. Only. Well, once upon a time, back in Old English, these would have been pronounced all the same with that long O sound. So it would have been own, ounce, and only. But by the 14th century, it started to shift and a W sound had come out as people talk. Now you have to remember that this was at a time where there wasn't necessarily standardized spelling, and people who were scribing would do the best they could to represent what they were hearing people say. Now we say one and once with this w sound. And interestingly enough, if you make a long O in your mouth and look at what your mouth does when you make that O and it kind of rounds out, then try to make the w sound and you'll notice your mouth is kind of in the right spot. So you can see where when we're working with some letters, that over time our mouths might have changed just exactly what they were doing and a different sound started coming out. Remember again that we have to maintain meaning connection between words whenever possible so that as we're reading, we can quickly understand what that word means. If we were to spell it how we hear it, we would not be able to quickly know the connection between one, once, and only. Looking at the word once is very interesting because back in Old English and even in Middle English, they used something called the genitive form. What that is really doesn't matter to you, but it was how they, it was a way to make adverbs out of nouns. Now, this, remember, would have been pronounced with that long O sound, and it would have been more like owns, potentially. Now, around the 16th century, the ES was replaced by the CE to show that we have what's called a voiceless s at the end of once, as opposed to that z sound that we hear at the end of ones. So owns versus once. So that's why the spelling was changed, because the pronunciation had begun to change at that time. When we look at the word only, all the way back in Old English, it was actually a compound word. So it was an and lick, and it literally meant one like. It probably had more of a meaning like solitary or maybe even unique, but that meaning has kind of been replaced by lonely. Um, Now we talk about only in its oneness. There's only me at the park. I'd be all by myself. So even though the meaning might have changed, or the definition of only might have changed over time, we have kept it as part of our English language, and it preserves that early pronunciation that once and one have since lost over time. So, how can I remember that one and once are spelt with an O at the beginning and not a W? Think about its connection to the word only. Only one, only once. When you can put them all together, you will remember that the O has to be the beginning of one and once so that we can see the connection between these words as we read the text. That's it for today, friends. Don't forget to be curious when you notice a word.